Hey guys, it's Nate with Zbroz, and we're gonna go over just the basics of how to align your side-by-side. This is gonna be pretty universal in the instructions, and this will get you close. Of course, if you're not comfortable with it, you can always get it to a dealership and allow one of their techs to do this, or even a lot of automotive shops can do four-wheel alignment and front-end alignments with their laser system. This is gonna give you something that we utilize, and it's just the basics of how to get your steering wheel and your tires straight so that you can go out and ride and not wear your tires out. All right, so you're gonna need some crescent wrenches because on the Zbroz tie rod kit, there is a jam nut on either end, and then there's also a flat that is machined into the tie rod. You're gonna use that to hold the tie rod steel while you loosen your jam nut. Now, if you're putting a tie rod kit on, everything's probably going to be loose already, and the jam nuts are going to want to be backed off all the way. So that's the basic tools that you're going to need, and we'll go over a good way to begin this process. All right, so step one, if you have a car with power steering, turn your key on and make sure that your steering wheel, when you're sitting in the car, is as close to straight as possible. And then at that point, you can just visually adjust your tie rods to get your tires straight, just for a visual reference. And one good thing to do is if you stand back at the back of the vehicle or the front of the vehicle, you can look down the side of the tire and see if it is straight visually. So, and again, to do that, that's where you're gonna have those jam nuts nice and loose, and then you're gonna spin the tie rod. And on most kits, you're dealing with a right hand and a left hand. So in this case, the inner one is right hand, the outer one is left hand. So as you spin this, it's going to move the tire in or out. As you make it shorter, it's going to move the back of the tire in. As you make this longer, it's going to move the back of the tire out. And of course, go in small increments and then double check your wheel to make sure it is straight as you make those adjustments. And just try to get it visually close first. And then I usually recommend that you pull it forward and back 10 or 15 feet while holding the wheel nice and square. And then at that point, you're going to need a measuring tape. And we'll show you a quick way to measure off of the tire to get just a basic starting adjustment so that you can go out and actually drive the car and then slowly fine tune it in until the tires are perfectly straight to the wheel. Okay, so the next step, after you've held your steering wheel straight and you've visually adjusted the tires just quickly to get the tire as straight as you can tell just looking down the side of the tire. Next step, again, center the wheel, make sure it's centered, and then utilizing the help of a buddy, you want to measure about midway down the tire. And if it's a new tire, there's a nice seam or where the mold came together, and you can use that as a reference point. If not, you have to measure off of a block of the tire and just make sure that you're using the same position each time, and you want to get a measurement. So on this particular instance, we're getting a measurement of 61 inches from the seam to the seam of the tire, and that's at the front. And then we're going to move to the back of the tire and do the exact same measurement midway down. And if the tires are straight, the measurement will be the same. If you're towed in or towed out, obviously the measurement would be a little bit different. And at that point, you would make the adjustment to both sides as equally as possible, and then drive the vehicle. And if you notice that it's pulling to the one direction, that means that when you made your adjustment, you have the tires, fading or tilting to the right, turning to the right or turning to the left. And at that point, you would make the adjustment to bring both tires back to square and then recheck that measurement. So it doesn't happen, measuring once or twice. Usually it's a combination of measuring it, making a little adjustment, hand snugging the jam nuts, driving it a short distance and seeing how the wheel feels and making sure that it's driving straight when the wheel is straight, coming back into the shop, or in your driveway, just a nice flat surface. Try to use the same area, measuring again. Usually it takes 3 or 4 times of kind of tweaking it this way to get the car driving straight with the wheel straight and making sure that the tires are as close to square or straight as possible. Now, there's plenty of schools of thought of whether you want some toe in or some toe out. Personally, we generally just try to make the tires as straight as possible. So if you can get that so it has no toe, the tires are as parallel as possible, you're probably going to have a pretty good driving car. It should not wander when you're going down the trail and on the road and stuff like that. And of course, this is just a good basic way to do it in your shop. If you want to have it professionally done, take it to a tire shop. They have lasers that they can connect to the wheels and get it even more true for you. But if you can get it in the baseline, it's going to help them. And for the majority of the cars that we set up for just driving in the mountains and on dirt trails and stuff like that, if you can get this close with the measuring tape, chances are you're going to be good to go. So again, if you have any questions about this, reach out to us. And as always, you can get all of your Zbroz racing products at zbrozracing.com or reach out to your local Zbroz dealer.